Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, it is a 70s pop icon, Leif Garrett. And we are going to talk about his new book, Idle Truth, a Memoir. And I have to say, this is the fun part about being an independent podcaster. Yes, I did stuff with Podcast One and Westwood One, but a show like this, just doing what I want, I probably wouldn't have flown. So this is the great joy of being an independent podcaster. Anyway, Leif was, of course, gracious on the phone, and we spoke a little bit off air and on air about this time where I got to hang out with Leif in Los Angeles. It was at the Key Club. And his band, I think they were called F8, were doing a premiere show. And so I went out and checked it out and so on and so forth. And then afterwards, we went back to the bus and we had a chance to chit-chat. And I have to say, that was one of the weirdest and wildest nights I could experience. First of all, here I was with a 70s pop icon doing a more hard rock kind of gig with a new band. And in the audience and in there was a whole bunch of, LA socialites, but we also had a chance to hang out with actor Ron Jeremy and the members of Pretty Boy Floyd, So just imagine this sight. There was me, there was Ron Jeremy, there was Leif Garrett, and Pretty Boy Floyd. Now, if that's not a cast of characters for you, I don't know what is. Anyway, it was a night. Let's just call it that. It was a night. If you go to my personal Facebook, Mitch Lafon, not the Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon Facebook, but my personal Facebook, and you shuffle through all the pictures, you will find a picture of me and Leif Garrett and one of the guys from Pretty Boy Floyd, and you will also find a picture of me with Ron Jeremy from that illustrious evening. So, now, surprisingly though, that evening, not mentioned in the book. It is not in Idle Truth, a Memoir. Go figure. I mean, come on, Leif. Didn't I mark your life? Anyway, speaking of marking my life, he did mark a lot of people's lives in the 70s. He is a 70s pop icon. Quite frankly, I would argue that Kiss is a 70s pop icon. So if I can have members of Kiss on the show, I can damn well have Leif Garrett on the show. So without further ado, here he is, the one, the only, le seul et unique, Leif Garrett. We are speaking with singer Leif Garrett. The new, I got it, sort of. The new book or the new memoir is Idle Truth, a memoir written with Chris Epting. And as we say in Montreal, bonjour, Leif. How are you?
Comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, see?
I'm well. And yourself?
I'm doing great. And as I was telling you just before we got started, we actually had a chance to talk and meet and sit at the back of the bus back in, I guess, 2002, 2003.
Oh, now I remember. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
The bus helped me.
Yeah, the bus part is what helped you. No, but it was great to meet you then. And when I show people the pictures of us hanging out, they're like, oh, my God, you hung out with him? And you
lived,
and I lived to tell. So let me talk about this memoir, because at the time you had done this VH1 Behind the Music, and it was all sort of very sappy, and oh my God, and Leif's going to be, and then you and I sat on this bus, and you went, yeah, well, and you were having a joint or whatever, and it was just like, yeah, well,
yeah. Exactly.
But now the book comes out, and the book is a lot more revealing. It's not very much TV-friendly VH1. You sort of say, okay, talk to me about that if you want that narrative and the fact that you're like, you know what? I've had these secrets for 40 years, 45 years. Enough is enough. I'm just going to let it go. You're going to get the whole truth.
That's correct. I really did try and offer that up to VH1. but they had their own, I guess, ideas on, the narrative, if you will, or the kindness or whatever. I think there was a lot of tears anyway, but it was sappy, as you say, and it wasn't really. I mean, it was fairly honest, except for the part where I said I was clean.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. But they like to do that. So let's go back to the beginning, because you've also said in other interviews that you never really were a singer. You were sort of thrust into this situation, a lot of it based on just looks. Talk to me about how a teen idol was created. Did you really sort of strive and do all the rehearsals and all that and got to where you were, or was it somewhat handed to you because somebody said, "Hey, here's a good-looking kid. Let's make him sing and dance"?
On a silver platter. I was receiving so much mail through the teen magazines and through CBS because of the TV series that I was doing at the time with Vince Van Patten and Alex Rock called Three for the Road. And this producer, Michael Lloyd, who has been involved with teen idols from since he was born. And he just saw the combination of this rather androgynous looking little pretty boy who, I would like to say, I hope it's true, has some charisma and some talent. They just never considered having me go through that process of fine tuning, the singing lessons, they tried with the dance lessons, and I was like, you guys, please, if I'm going to do this, which I'm going to do it, and you know it, but I want to be Mick Jagger. I want to be Rod Stewart. I want to be, Elton John. I didn't want to do the Deney Terrio dance moves, which is basically what they had in store. It would have been very much like a lot of the bands are doing today with not a band, or the idols, solo singers, without a band and a track.
So did they make you sing to track?
They did not make me sing to track, but that's the way everything was done basically on television. So lip syncing was normal on television shows and things like that. It was very rare. I think only Don Kirshner's Rock Concert was the one where bands got to play live. But American Bandstand and all those other television shows, when you do a talk show thing, it's all lip sync. And very rarely will you ever see somebody like, I did see Bowie do like Dinah Shore live with Iggy Pop, which was amazing. But those are people that are absolute, true, born to be artists in the music world. Whereas I don't think I was a natural musician by any means. I've always loved music. Music has always been my life in many ways, even with television and stuff, because it's sometimes what's it called, the triple threat. If you can sing, you can dance, and you can act, you're the triple threat. So sometimes, like I tried out for the audition of MAME with Lucille Ball when I was really young, about 8.
Wow. Well, you've had some great experiences, I have to say. But all right, let me get you just over here to 2002, 2003 with F8, because you had been out of the public eye for many years. There was the VH1 thing, as we know.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to bring out a new band and try over again. Talk to me about the thought behind that. Was that just that you loved music so much and you wanted to get back to it? Or was it, hey, I'm bored, let's do something? And how difficult did you find it?
You nailed it on the head with that. Like I said, I have always been drawn to music in so many ways that I wanted to do it. I really wanted the musical career, but on my terms, so to speak, doing the music that I wanted to do, not doing remakes of stuff. And, I found it interesting that we did one song that I did that was an original one, was my biggest hit with I Was Made for Dancing, and yet they wanted to go back to the formula of a remake that was of a song that was already a hit. But nonetheless, anyway, back to the question. I wanted it really badly. And I asked the guys when we started out to just keep their mouths shut and not say anything about who's in the band, and see if it fly on its own merit. You know, I don't want to rely on my past. I look forward. You know, there's a great quote that says, "The past is the past. The future is unknown." And
you dropped out there. The future is unknown, and what?
The future is unknown, and the present is a gift.
Right. So okay, well, okay. Let me ask you about them polishing you in the early days, or you know, you're doing Surfing's USA, you're doing Runaround Sue, you're doing all these songs. Mm-hmm. How frustrating was that? Because on one sense, listen, you're all over TV, you're over, you know, you're on Tiger Beat and 16 magazine, and obviously there was a lot of girls, so you can't complain.
Oh yeah.
But
not at all.
Artistically, holy Christ, you're not doing what you want to do. So was it damned if you do, damned if you don't? Like, how did you sort of take it all in? And is that sort of why you turned to the drugs, or the drugs was just because that's the scene, man, and that's what you do?
I would imagine it's a little of both. When you've got A&R guys offering coke up to you, and you're the only one who's under 18 in the group, and there's no parental supervision other than an A&R guy or a manager, and they're thinking of me as an adult. Anyway, that's part of it, you know. But the other thing is, yes, because I was so stifled creatively in the music area, you know, Tony Scotti at one point just said, you know, basically, shut up, kid. You know, we know what we're doing. You do what we say, and that's it. And oddly enough, you know, the record that I ended up doing with Rick Finch from the Casey and the Sunshine Band was the first time that I went away from the Scotti Brothers studio and their control to do a record. Now, they had a little bit of, control with Rick, and, you know, I went there and did I think a pretty decent record. But when I come back to LA, all proud under my arm here, listen to this. Tony says, no, first you listen to this. And it was a song that their staff writer had written, and said, okay, you're going to record this now. And they ended up releasing that as the single. So that song never represented the album in any way and didn't sound anything, you know, like it. And it seems rather silly when a young man of like 18, 19, or 20, whatever it was, and I did that record, is singing "Come Back When You Grow Up, Little Girl." You know, it's not the song that I wanted to do, and that's what happened. So it was just more control, more not allowed to spread my wings, so to speak.
Right, and of course, the B side to that was a Swahili Serenade, which you can't go wrong with. But you did get to work with Paul Anka afterwards, so that's not so bad. But all right, let me ask you.
Not so bad.
No, in fact, not too far from here in Ottawa, there's a Paul Anka street named after him. So, but
really, that's crazy.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, he's a Canadian. He's the Canadian Frank Sinatra. What are you gonna do?
Icon. You know, a songwriter of many, many songs that people don't even know that he wrote for other people.
Well, okay, you know what? I was not going to ask you about Paul, but let me ask you about Paul. What was that like coming in? Because, you know, you've got this sort of staff writer, Martha Sharp, writing "Come Back When You Grow Up," and it's this sort of pablum crap, you know, because they had the label producers and the label songwriters. No offense to her, to the song, but, you know, that's what it was. They just punch out this whatever. You know, 2 + 2 makes 4, go sing it. But then, right, you know, but then you put your head on my shoulder and it's Paul Anka, and suddenly it's like, well, okay, he's done that, and now you're covering it, but he also writes these other things. What was that like, knowing that you were going to start covering some of these bigger things and not just do the poor lady in the back room writing some, you know, 2x2 paint by number schlock? I mean, you know,
right. I get it. Yeah. Honestly, you know, those times that I've been able to be in the presence of and meet and just pick their brains, which I always did. People like that and himself. It's amazing. I'm so lucky. It's unbelievable. I would do this all again because of the perks, if you will, the bonuses that comes along with being a quote unquote teen idol who is controlled by management and told what to do. But there are those times when you just go, wow, okay, it was all worth it for this moment. It's amazing, it's humbling.
Oh, the bonuses must have been terrific. Just real quick,
Yeah.
Scott, you mentioned, listen, I don't want to get, I don't want to start making the show X-rated, but we can imagine that the trim was pretty damn decent. No offense.
Well, beyond better than decent, dude. It was. I mean, listen, I can find something beautiful in every woman, but there's nothing like you're a young man at the testosterone levels that we are, and having supermodels throw themselves at you, and tennis, stars and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was just, I get on my knees and thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord. I know. Too bad we didn't have iPhones back then. But all right, okay, let me ask you about that. How crazy was that stuff? I mean, did you show up at the hotel room and there was a girl hanging out in the closet ready to jump out?
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, so it got to the point. Did it get to the point where was it just fun or was it dangerous where you went, oh fuck, there's somebody in my closet?
No, yeah. That's yes. It got to that point. It definitely got to that point. Not so much of the young ladies' physical, except for I have a couple that are pretty interesting with, like, God told me that we should be together and they're sticking with this and the whole game plan. And, that's the one where you worry about opening the front door and all of a sudden you're Rebecca Schaefer.
Or you just go, hey, guess what? God told me that too. Good idea.
Yeah, good idea. I'll meet you at the church.
or behind it. Oh boy, we are definitely going down the wrong path, but that's okay. I do want to ask you about the Scotti brothers, because the Scotti brothers, for many in the industry, were revered. They were these hit makers. They controlled part of the music industry for many, many years. They were not just some. What was that like? What do you learn from working with them? Yes, they sort of have you under their thumb and you have to do what they say, but you said you got the benefits, so it sort of balances out. Do you learn anything in terms of the business? Yeah, well, yeah. But do you learn anything from the business? Is there anything you took and you just went, oh, fuck? Or did you ever think and go, what would Tony do? What would Ben do? Like,
never once.
Never once. Okay.
Never once. And let me explain why. The Scotti brothers were, before working with myself, they were promoters. They were not a management company. They did not even have their own record label at that point. And it was actually myself who was the first on Scotti Brothers Records, and I believe Survivor. And that we were, I was first, Survivor was right there, and then they started a subsidiary label, which was run by the Scotti Brothers, called Rock and Roll Records. They got lucky because they're, that this is their mentality in many ways. Weird Al Yankovic. So
they got Weird Al, which I always thought was hilarious. They got you, Survivor, and then Weird Al. Like, I just can't see how their A&R department went, yeah, we need a comedian, we got a teen idol, and we got this real serious rock band.
Right. Yeah, see, it wasn't really like that though. They weren't a label that way. They had one A&R guy, maybe two. And it was just, there was only a couple of people on their label, and it was all started with my records. And, that's when they became the hit makers, if you will. Tony actually had the nerve to say in the book that I never made him any money for the company. And that's pretty funny, holding platinum and gold records arm in arm with you.
Well, all right. Let me ask you then about some of that money and recoupment costs, which is the great word that every artist loves. Don't you love that word, recoupment?
No.
No, I can imagine. Talk to me about that, because you're here. You are on American Bandstand. You're on all these different TV shows. You're on, as we said. Listen, I used to follow Kiss and buy all the Teen Beat because there was always something about Kiss, and you were always right there with them. God, what was that? 16 magazine, right? You're always in 16.
Yeah.
You have all this notoriety, this fame, especially back then in the non-days of social media. You were ubiquitous even before there was Instagram, and yet you're not a multi-millionaire who's, you know. What was it frustrating knowing that you're doing all this work and getting all this thing, and somebody else is eating on your dime?
It's gut wrenching. You know, the thing is, I had the decision because I was underage. The statute of limitations does not end supposedly with this stuff, so I could I considered, then suing them, but I just didn't want my life dragged through the media again in a very negative way. And yes, it would have. Awarded me something, but then most of it would probably go to an attorney, and it was really, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a pauper, and thank God I'm still not. I made some good decisions on F8 stuff. The Dickie Roach did well, just to throw that in there, and it's insane because. I'm staying in the Dorchester Hotel in London. I've got the number 3 single, and I'm staying in the terrace suite, which is half of the roof of the Dorchester Hotel. If you order food, the chef comes up in a private elevator to your room and cooks in your kitchen. I had no idea I was paying for that.
Yeah, that's when you get the recoupment report, and you go, say what now? I paid $8,000 for a room for 2 nights?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was 2 weeks. But it was insane.
It's just.
But then again, like I said, those are some of the perks, being able to, witness or feel or experience that is awesome. You feel like the king of the world,
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Just real quick on the book, and then I want to ask you one other question here. But Idle Truth, a memoir. Talk to me about the timing. Was it just you got to this point in your life where you said, okay, it's time to put this out? Or do you see this as a springboard to another project, maybe where you go to a Netflix or a streaming service and say, listen, it's a crazy story. We had the accident, we had the drugs, we had the women, we had let's make something. Do you hope to get this on a screen somewhere?
I'm open to all of that. I'm still when I hear the right deal or the right approach, yes. And as far as it's been long enough that it amazes me that I meet people still, and they say, like, "What happened to your hair?" It's like, dude, I'm 58. I'm not 16 anymore. People are like, this one guy's so funny, man. We're walking in, he says, "Are you like the girl?" I said, "I don't know. Who the hell do you think I am?" He goes, "Well, you look like that Leif Garrett, but no, man, you're way too old."
It's just like last week when David Lee Roth was in Vegas, and people are like, oh my God, he's not doing the kicks, and he's not. And it's like, he's fucking 70. Like, calm down. Like, calm the fuck down.
Right, really. People, they just want to see. They want, people so desperately want to feel as good as they did at that age now, because they're not happy, for the most part, at their ages now,
You're sort of trapped at that age when we go back and we watch whatever Sergeant Pepper's, we always see you as 18 and we don't realize. And so when you listen to Van Halen, you think, oh my, 1978 high kicking at Oakland, and then you see it. And it's like, no, folks, you got to adjust. I want to ask you this, just real quick on the Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. I have interviewed different members or different cast members that have been on that, including Steven Adler and including others. And the consensus I get was, yeah, it was great because it brought attention to what I needed to do and get through it. But at the end of the day, they're profiting on my misery. They're profiting on my addiction, and it's very public and it's disturbing. So I want to know, how was the experience for you? Was it, hey man, Drew did some great stuff and I thank him, or you're like, you know what, I did feel a little used and abused by the time we were done with this? How did you sort of see that and the experience and saying, okay, I'm going to be on your show?
Well, that's the payment, right? That's the payoff. You give them this, you get this out of it. You know, you give them this, they give you this. That's just how it works. I wish that when I did the celebrity bull riding, I just wish that I realized that this was all based on a really good chance that somebody's going to get hurt on camera, and that's gold for them. So which is why I bowed out before I got on, and I'm not kidding when I tell you this bull's name, because this is the one I got. Diablo.
Why not? Yeah, the Diablo.
Why not, dude?
Why not? So all right, so we did F8 in 2002, and I saw the show, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
That was also the night that I met Ron Jeremy and the people from Pretty Boy Floyd. So overall, a winner night for me.
That's great. I'm not sure how but when that meeting happened. Yeah.
But are you done with music, or do you still have sort of one in the chamber where you go, you know what, I'm going to try this one more time and sort of go out on top, or go out my way?
That's what I want to do, and I still have a one in the chamber, and I'm not playing Russian roulette anymore. I am, and that's not literal, of course. I don't need to, see some crazy headlines on the internet now.
No crazy headlines. Promise. No crazy headlines.
Not you. I mean, that's for you. You doing this. I know you wouldn't do that. But yes, I really, I'm not done, musically, and it'll be when it's absolutely the right thing to release.
Well, that sounds good. So there you go. Thank you. And of course, Idle Truth, a memoir, is available now. I do recommend that you pick it up. And as we say in Montreal, merci, Leif.
Merci, monsieur. I must say, dude, this was a really wonderful interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure, I watched a little bit of the sort of Entertainment Tonight kind of interviews, and I'm just like, dude, no.
Getting fast. It's over and over. I mean, it's like the first question is, well, before we get into the book, Leif, how are you? Are you okay?
Would you do it all over again if you could?
Yeah. Are you high now?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I was sure wanted to cut a piece of my hair off and have it tested.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
But
I
was doing my research and watching these clips, and it's all these like really smiley people with the same fucking question. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna subject them to that. That's not gonna happen. I'm smarter than that, and I do better research than that. But and hold on, let me.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn off. You nailed it.
I'm going to turn off.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.